What is up, YouTube? I am back. So much has changed, yet so much is still the same. It feels kind of weird doing this, I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of excited. I'm scared. Actually, kind of stoked to share the story with you. Why I am actually the crypto OG. What does that even mean? What is that? What are we talking about? Well, let's take a step back. I've been kind of quiet about my Bitcoin and my crypto knowledge or my experience. Mainly because there's so many clowns in the world, in the space. There's so many bad actors. I've been just kind of, watching and observing. And then now with a lot of excitement in the DeFi space, in the NFT space, I've decided to come forward and share the truth and expose everybody. Just kidding. No, I'm not gonna do that. I think the bad actors get exposed already on Twitter, so I don't even need to do that. They do that work themselves. But what we're actually going to be talking about today is the story of how I originally got into the crypto and Bitcoin game when I first bought my Bitcoin in 2012. And yes, we've got screenshots, we got proof, not photoshopped. So you trolls out there are gonna be like, this guy's full of shit. Well, I'm gonna be putting screenshots up. When I first bought Ether, when I first started talking about Ether, when my company, Neon Roots, first accepted its first Bitcoin, fast forward to 2020 and kind of when I started telling famous artists and hyping that about like getting in the crypto game and getting in the NFT space and why it's going to change the art world forever. Excited for you guys to tune in. Don't skip to the end. Watch the whole thing. That's the whole point. But if I'm talking a little slow, I'll let you 1.52x this shit. All right? So let's get it. All right, so here's how this story starts. My co-founder and I, we started this creative agency called Neon Roots back in 2011 together. And his name is Drew Harding. Now, Drew, he was a big player in the cannabis space. So one day, Drew and I, we go for one of our lunches. We've had a good sales meeting. We had a good call. And we go to this Thai place in Hollywood. I remember the place is kind of like this grungy, kind of like hole-in-the-wall spot. I think it was like Pad Thai, Hollywood, whatever. So we sit down for lunch, and this is, 2011. And Drew comes in close to me. He's like, dude, so there's this place on the internet where you could buy children, arms, order hits, buy drugs, buy IDs, buy credit cards. It's called the Silk Road. It's the dark web. This is where the Russian mafia and the Chinese mafia and all the mafias of the world are now doing their underworld businesses and yada, yada, yada. So, he's already like creating this amazing hook for me to be like, okay, tell me more. Like, what is this? What is this about? Obviously, I take the bait, and I'm like, where do you go? Like, how does this work? She's like, you got to download Tor. This is like the underbelly of the internet. You can't access most of these websites unless you download Tor. And then, like the Matrix, you've taken the blue pill, and you get to see this whole new world. And I'm like, whoa, my mind is just freaking blown. So Drew proceeds to tell me that everything in this dark, underground, super crazy, super exciting, super interesting universe only accepts one type of currency, which is called Bitcoin. This thing. He starts, then he goes to the, he's got the beginning of the story, now he's moving to the climax. Satoshi basically is the founder of this thing called Bitcoin. And I go, all right, well, how do we get me some Bitcoin? And he's saying that, people have just started to use it in like their mom's basement and someone ordered a pizza with Bitcoin and it's going to be the thing of the future. Pretty much at this moment, I'm triggered. I'm like, I need to find and do some research on this thing called Bitcoin that he's talking about. I sit down with Drew. I'm like, all right, I've taken your green pill or your blue pill. I'm in. Like, what do we got to do? Like, let's fucking get some Bitcoin. Let's mine this shit. Give me some stickers. I mean, my computer is covered with Bitcoin stickers at this point. I'm just like full on freaking fanboy. So he starts introducing me to this world. I get on Coinbase. Coinbase just came out or hadn't come out yet. We get on Mt. Gox. We get on BTCE. We get on Bitstamp. And those were the main exchanges. So for about like 3 to 6 months, most of my evenings are trading Bitcoin. Back then, it was very, very, very easy for you to recognize patterns with Bitcoin because most of the heavy volume trading was coming out of China. So the big, big buy and sell orders, they're all coming out of China. So as long as you're up at like 9 p.m. Pacific, the trick for me was waiting for the Chinese to come back from lunch, because the Chinese traders at lunch, they're talking about, buy the rumor, sell the news. That's the old saying in Wall Street and equities and trading. So they're basically selling the news. A lot of the movements are happening outside, outside of the office, the speculation, and then they go back, and then the trading, boom, 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 boom. So we were kind of able to ride that wave for a couple months. It was hell exciting. And then me being just a crazy ass hustler that I am, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is what it is. Decides, all right, let's take it up a notch. I basically start acting as a private Bitcoin broker for crackheads. Don't judge me yet, because that's not what I intended. I didn't know this when I started, but back then, local BTC was, a complete unregulated marketplace for buying or selling Bitcoin. So if you didn't want your footprint, you didn't want your taxes, your social security tied to Coinbase or one of the other exchanges, namely if you're doing something illegal like buying crack on the dark web, then you would basically buy on local BTC. So then I started to realize this kind of trend where there were a lot of junkies. So a lot of people who were, addicted to opiates and other drugs, started to hit me up, and I'd meet them on the corner and they're fucking scratching, and it was dark. It was really dark. So I think I lasted maybe 2 or 3 more times until I realized this is making my soul dark. This is bad. I'm basically enabling these people. They're paranoid. They're thinking that I'm gonna rip them off. They're so fucking high. It's just like, all right, local BTC is shut. So that's when Drew and I kind of put our thinking caps on, and we go, how do we come up with something legitimate in the space? We come up with a hardware device called the BitDash. So we came up with this thing called the BitDash, live LED ticker using Raspberry Pi, Arduino technology we built in-house. It basically had the price of Bitcoin all day long. Okay, so we built this because we wanted to solve a problem for ourselves. We wanted to see the price of Bitcoin all day long. We were obsessed. Everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid at this point. So we decide, do we want to, package this up for Kickstarter? We went and shot a video for it. And then we kind of realized, we don't really have the form factor dialed in. We don't know if this is something that, can succeed. And then, the challenge kicks in, which is common with most creative agencies who have client work takes priority. It always does. So, a big client comes in, gives us money, and then the internal cool project that we should have fucking pursued, probably made $1 billion on, that's the one that gets deprioritized. So that's kind of what happened. So we didn't really do anything with the BitDash. So around this time, Neon Roots starts accepting Bitcoin for services. We get hit up by a friend. This dude's like, there's a client we're going to work with. He's like, dude, you guys are fucking badass. And this guy's name is Dante. And Dante works with Reddit. And he's like, we're hosting the Dogecoin launch event in Hollywood. And we'd like to know if you'd be interested in sponsoring it. So I basically, I didn't really think much of this. I'm like, well, okay. It sounded total, garage kind of dorky miners, which it was exactly that. There were maybe 150 people who showed up. We built a custom one on display. We got featured in CoinDesk. We got shouted out for it. So, we got some recognition, which was awesome. But we didn't get paid. We didn't get paid in Doge or anything, and we thought it was a joke. We thought it was a complete meme because it was a meme that would basically last like a month. So we sponsored the Dogecoin event. We powered up the launch event with all our LEDs. The whole fucking place sees it. And then that's actually where I bought my first mining rig. So I get my mining rig set up, continue to do my thing, and then I wake up to the news. Boom, breaking news, fucking U.S. Senate hearings, talking about crypto, they're going to start regulating, boom. So just like domino effect, everything starts going wrong in the Bitcoin universe. But then the big one, the big splash, you see this really fat French guy on TV who is being charged with committing fraud. And the billions on the exchange that I had most of my crypto on. So, I don't even remember the value. I'll be completely honest. I think back then it was probably $50,000. Today that $50,000 easily would have been $50 million, maybe more. So all my, you can't log into Mt. Gox. I call friends. I call Drew. I don't know what to do. I go on this Reddit forum and I see that there's this Jesus Christ superstar guy who everyone is upvoting. He is buying your Gox coins on the secondary market. So he's basically hedging that, Bitcoin or your Bitcoin on your Mt. Gox exchange will be worth something one day. So he's giving you I don't know, 30 cents to the dollar or something. So I was able to get that. I was able to liquidate through this guy, get rid of everything that I had on Mt. Gox. And then I think it was a series of things that just made me generally unhappy with the industry and the community behind it. I saw how many amateurs there were. There wasn't a lot of agreement, between committee members who were managing a lot of these coins. So I don't know. I just said, fuck it. So I used this opportunity to pretty much liquidate most of my position, cash out, and then I kind of became an anti-crypto guy. Kind of became that guy. And then I kind of started making some mistakes. This is where I get a little cocky or stupid. I start creating PR, not for any reason or any intention, but just because I always have been somebody who speaks my mind. I'm not going to filter anything. This is also what has made me quite successful with a lot of my storytelling and my content online, is that I do speak in a very authentic, kind of no bullshit way. I start writing some stories. This one's the rise and fall of Bitcoin on Forbes. It goes fucking viral. Within hours, I was in Brazil when I wrote this and published it. Within hours, I'm getting trolled and doxxed heavy on my LinkedIn, on my social media. I'm getting threats. You can see all the comments on Reddit. It's fucking nasty. That's kind of when I started to realize that, I'm either right, everybody's wrong, or I'm seriously wrong. Over the course of a couple years, I see Bitcoin just start to really take off to be what it is. So we move into this office called the Wave House. And it's basically Bitcoin all day. Everybody's figuring out how to write Bitcoin. I don't even know what it's trading at here, a couple thousand, 2,000 maybe max. I don't even know. So everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid. Everyone's obsessed with it. Drew's kind of on his soapbox telling everybody why, the world's coming to an end and you got to go decentralize everything and Bitcoin's the future and, the world's fucked, which that's part of the reason why I actually didn't like a lot of the crypto community stuff, is because there is this religious, extreme ideology with it where it's you either believe in Bitcoin or you're out. You're either on that team or you're on our team. What is it going to be? And I never I don't know. I never took it all that seriously. I got kind of a little salty, a little resentful. I saw so many people getting rich. It's normal. That's a normal feeling. I think I beat myself up about it sometimes, but the reality is when you are so early in something, like I have been with this and other things, and I see a lot of my other friends getting rich, I'm like, why the fuck am I not in this party? You know, like why didn't I buy that lottery ticket? I did, and then I sold it. Why am I such a dumbass? You know, so I was beating myself up a lot over the, the couple years when it just started to explode. I started to become a believer again with DeFi. So it wasn't until last year when I started to actually start investing and rebuilding my portfolio, which I, happy to share you kind of what my portfolio looks like today. But seeing the technology is what lit me up like crazy, because for so long in my industry, running a dev shop, hearing all the bullshit ICOs, seeing all the landing pages and marketing funnels and all the scam shit, and not seeing any real technology being built and wondering, when is this going to blow up? I actually saw the community really start to grow up. I started getting obsessed with NFTs. I got obsessed with it when I was pitching an artist named Retna. I wasn't thinking of a lot of the use cases that exist today in terms of the auction side. I was more thinking about how the ERC20 blockchain would be able to host and track a lot of his physical artwork. So it was really the connection between the physical art and creating some type of authenticity and tracking layer with blockchain. That's really what got me excited about it initially. I did consulting for Dapper Labs. I got to meet with them at their offices in Vancouver when I was helping them with Toby and a lot of the development. That continued to just kind of give me a lot of energy around the space. I met Roham at a wedding, so we were chopping it up, talking about kind of the future when CryptoKitties was already out, and he hadn't even started working on NBA yet. I think it was the Cheese Wizards, and there were a couple other games before NBA. I'm still very cautious about the space. I still think that there's a lot of things that need to get figured out. I think it's extremely concerning that there's just so much leverage that people are playing with that's completely unregulated. But I'm actually a lot more optimistic now than I ever have been. When were we ever going to be in a place where we can buy synthetic stocks or equities, we can do lending, we can buy insurance, we can trade and swap and do all the really cool things and see a country adopt it as its legal tender? When were we ever going to see that? That's kind of my journey of Bitcoin. And that's why I'm actually worthy. I think I'm worthy and I deserve the credit of being a Bitcoin OG. I've seen it. I've seen the ebbs and flows of this thing. I've seen it so much. And I remembered one thing: don't pay attention to what's going on, Coin Market Cap or your tracker. If you're going to play the long game, play the long game. That's why what I've learned is, people ask me about Bitcoin, should I buy, I don't give any advice, because what's the point? They're not going to take your advice anyway. There's so much emotional FOMO buying behind it. Anyway, just to wrap things up, this is not investment advice. I am not trying to shill any tokens. I promise. I work with a handful of NFT companies and DeFi companies. I do love the space. I do enjoy it, but I do think there's a lot of risk. And wear your seatbelt, kids. Make sure you ask mom and dad before you start playing with leverage, because that shit is scary as fuck. You get margin called like you did with the big crash last week. Anyway, I hope you like my story. Make sure to comment. Make sure to subscribe. I'm coming back to you, YouTube. Bigger, better, stronger than ever. I got recharged. So I will see you next time.